Well, happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of He Said, He Said, He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King. Again, welcome to our Friday, August the 2nd live episode, ladies and gentlemen. Whoa, okay. I've been saying it for weeks. It is really, really hot. The heat today and yesterday in DC, I mean, it was so hot that when I went in my car, I literally had to turn the air on for at least a minute so it could cool my car off with the windows down. It is really hot. I hope all of you are taking care of yourselves and staying hydrated and not, staying in this heat to the point of it's making you ill. Um, wow, what a crazy week that we have had. And in the midst of it all, it has really made a lot of us feel American, ladies and gentlemen. But today, I want to open the show with, you know how I feel about Biden. I don't want any of us to forget Joe Biden with this going on and all of his efforts to protect our democracy and keep his promises that he made when he took office. And this week was no exception. The United States and Russia completed their biggest prisoner swap in post-Soviet history on yesterday, with Moscow releasing journalist Evan Gershkovich and fellow American Paul Whelan, along with dissidents, including Vladimir Kara-Murza, in a multinational deal that set 24 people free. President Joe Biden trumpeted the exchange, and by far the largest in a series of swaps with Russia, as a diplomatic feat while welcoming families of the returning Americans to the White House. Of course, the deal, like any other deal before, it reflected, an innate imbalance. And the U.S. and allies gave up Russians charged with convicted, who are convicted of a series of crimes in exchange for Russia releasing the journalists. And I just want to, again, give Joe Biden some credit. I want to open the show that way, doing that, because Joe Biden is still doing the work. And I don't know if any of you heard last week with how, I think last week we might have just talked about it, but I just wanted to share some points with you about Joe Biden, his announcement and his bold plan to reform the Supreme Court and ensure that no president is above the law, ladies and gentlemen. And, he believed that no one, neither the president nor the Supreme Court, is, again, above the law in the face of this crisis of confidence in America's democratic institutions. Biden is calling for 3 bold reforms to restore trust and accountability. One of them, no immunity for crimes a former president committed in office. And you can go to the website to read all of these. The second one is term limits for Supreme Court justices. We all see them, I'm not hopping on age or anything like that, but most of them have been there for quite a while. And so, that has been the concern of many Americans about how long that they stay in office. And a binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court, because as you've seen, many of our judges have been really unethical. And so I just want to, again, I don't want you all to forget what Joe Biden is doing. And before he leaves office, I have a feeling he's going to do a lot more. But keep your eye on Joe Biden. Yes, I wanted to open up the show that way. And about our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen, our quest to unleash potential begins with an assessment of your inherent capabilities, something that lives in you. So many of us we vastly underestimate our abilities and the possibilities within ourselves, and as a result, never unleash our full potential. So my ploy to you is to take time to reflect on how best to leverage your strengths and improve on your areas of weakness. And tonight, we have a special guest with us, ladies and gentlemen, to have a conversation about, unleashing your potential and happiness triggers. We have Reverend Dr. Christian Frazier. He's here to talk about his new books, Unleashing Potential and Happiness Triggers. And I have been following this guy for years. And so for him to clear his schedule to be on our show, I am very honored, especially in the times that we live in. We need to have this conversation that we're going to have tonight. And before I bring Bobby on, for those of you who are watching, wherever you are, if you can chime in, I want you to just respond to this question. Do you think cell phones should be removed from students in their classrooms? All right, that is my question to you. You can send texts all night, messages all night about your answer to that. But while you're doing that, I'm going to move forward and we're going to get on with the chat.
Oh, I guess cell phones should be removed from class.
So said the educator. So said that. How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, yeah, my brother. How are you?
Happy Friday to you. That was good.
I was like, wait a minute, pick up your cell phone, Bobby, and have it.
That was good. How you doing on this hot day?
Hot. It is hot, Alvin. And I shared with you and Norman before we went on, my AC unit in my townhouse is not cooperating today. So right out of camera view is this fan that is keeping a brother from glowing during the show tonight. So
well, not even heat can keep you from glowing, because you are glowing. You are glowing. Hi, Rose. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Rodney. Hey, Monica. I saw Monica this week. She's so beautiful.
Hey, Monica.
She looks so beautiful. It was good to see you, Monica.
Monica. Hey, Rodney.
Good to see you joining the show.
Yeah.
Didn't Rodney just have a birthday?
He did.
Happy belated birthday, Rodney. You know, we follow some of y'all. Okay. We do. We follow y'all closely. So
up in Philly, turning it out.
So Bobby.
Yes.
The only things I think is on my lips right now is the Olympics. Okay. And I can't tell you how good it feels to feel American while watching all of this.
Yeah, it does make you feel patriotic in a really nice way. And at a time when we feel very divided around a lot of other things, it's nice when you see athletes sporting the red, white, and blue and going out there and competing against the world.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing to see. And I echo you in all of that. And I want to circle back to last week, because there was a moment during the opening ceremonies when Celine Dion, she took center stage, and Celine Dion stood on the Eiffel Tower and belted.
Tore it up.
It was it not magnificent?
It was literally magnificent. It really was. It was beautiful. She was, particularly given all that she has been going through personally with her health and so forth, to see her up on that Eiffel Tower in that white and not just kind of limping through the sun, like blowing like Celine normally does. So it was beautiful.
It was a beautiful performance. And of course, this week has been full of, Olympic wins for the United States. I know you have the count. I don't know where the U.S. stands tonight at this moment, but what's the count for what do you call it, for medals?
The current count right now, and knowing that, we're always on a little bit of a delay and so forth, but I believe this is the most up-to-date information. Right now, for the United States, our current count is 9 gold, 18 silver, and 16 bronze, for a total of 43 medals. We are in the lead in terms of overall total medals. Now, for those of you who were not privy to our previous conversation, Alvin is very focused on gold. He is not happy that the United States is not the team that has the most gold. Right now, China has the greatest amount of gold medals at 13, and the United States has 9.
Well, viewers, first of all, thank you, Rodney. That's right. Cell phones should be limited. I'm with you, Rodney. Thank you for saying that. And how you doing, Sean? Cedric, thank you for joining the show tonight. What I told Bobby about the medals, who gets their life together for 4 years to go over to wherever the Olympics are being held to not win gold? That's the purpose. And
I
so, and so I'm not shading them. I'm not saying what I think how you took it was different. I'm just saying
no, I think
goal is in their eye,
we agree. Everyone is going to go for the gold.
Yeah.
But I also know people who watch the Olympics as we do, who are upset when Americans don't win the gold, or not even just not upset that I'm upset that when we don't win it, but they're almost angry that another country has won it. I'm like, but those people have been training equally hard.
I say Xanaxes are for everybody. Okay, that's what I say. No shade to your friend, but
The other thing
Xanax
I would say also, it's really great to see an American team that is as diverse. You know, at a time again when the divisiveness kind of exists and so forth, it is extremely diverse Olympic team.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, while we're here, let's go through some images of some of the folks who have won medals,
Sure.
if you will. I think we have the what do you call it, the gymnastics.
Gymnastics team, yes, yeah. U.S. men's gymnastics.
They did medal, and as we know that
in 16 years.
How about that? How about that? And of course, the GOAT. She's back again, but they all received a gold medal for the all around, and she received a gold medal for that was the all around.
Yes, they won as a team, and then she won for the individual all around as well. And Suni Lee also medaled, getting the bronze for the during the all around individual competition as well.
So kudos to them. And who do we have next? We have Katie Ledecky, who's right here in our backyard.
As the Maryland.
She is the most decorated.
That's right.
Female Olympian in the world.
Right here as the Maryland.
Congratulations to you, Katie Ledecky. And here is the and this is terrible because this is the first African American fencer.
Yes.
To win and she won gold in this field, and she's also same gender loving. How about that?
Look at that.
And I'm sorry, I was going to ask my producer. I had her name here, and all of a sudden it just went off. But we're going to circle back and we're going to say her name. But
we're going to speak her name. Yes,
we're going to speak her name. And here are the rowers who won. Well, before we get to the rowers, here's a beautiful image of what the Paris River should look like, the Seine, what it should look like. Mm-hmm. And here are some rowers who won. They won a gold medal today in that water. And here are the people cleaning that water, because the sewage went back into the river.
Oh my God. And the rowers at least had the luxury of being in the river in the boats. Not everybody had that luxury though.
Exactly. Naming
the triathlon.
the next group who jumped in the water,
in a literal river of stuff.
This was nasty. This was complete. This was nasty. You trained for 4 years to go over there to swim in some sewage. But you did what needed to be done, ladies and gentlemen. So I congratulations to all of our Olympians who were there, and I know that the track and field started already, and so we'll have a recap of that next week when we come back. So,
and I do just shout out to Simone Biles, who and those of you who have been following politics will get exactly what she meant. But she made a recent post, and she has her little goat. Her diamond encrusted goat on, of course, being the greatest of all time. And she just said in her social media post, "I love my black job."
I love it. I did see that. And thank you to our viewer, Sean. Sean, it is Lee Kiefer. That is the fencer who won the gold medal, and the first African American and the first same gender loving woman who won in that category. So congratulations to her. But in other news this week, Bobby, there has been some crazy stuff going on. So let's go to the NABJ.
Yes.
Where the former president was interviewed this week. But before it happened, Karen Attiah was the co-chair.
Yes.
Karen Attiah stepped down when she heard that Donald Trump was going to be interviewed. And I do have And she posted it on Twitter, and which I thought, wow, this must be really heavy. And she said, while my decision was influenced by a variety of factors, I was not involved or consulted with in any way with the decision to platform Trump in such a format. And that is, those are the words that she posted on Twitter.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a controversial decision, to say the very least. Some of you may very well know that back long ago, when Bobby Edwards was at Howard University, he studied journalism. I was a journalism major and was a cub reporter in the Washington area for a short period as well. And so the National Association of Black Journalists is an organization of which I'm most familiar with. And I actually reached out to a couple of my friends who I knew were at that convention and asked them, how is it possible that they are giving the platform to the former president? And their response was, as journalists, we have to cover everyone. And, you know, and I said, okay.
I actually thought at first, I was appalled by it. I was sitting in my office. I went into the office that day and I watched it. I was appalled, but I thought it was a good thing that they did it. I think that for African Americans who, quote unquote, are sitting on the fence, or who have no idea the type of person that Donald Trump is, they saw it. They saw it. And how he disrespected those three, not one, not two, but three Black women on that center stage. It was a wake-up call. And so we're appalled to, okay, this is going to work in a way that I think would be advantageous to all of us. Yeah.
Well, if it was a wake-up call, I think these people must have had their phones off the hook, because I don't know why it would take you this long to understand who he is and how he is. He did nothing but show himself to be the same way that April Ryan, who also was protesting via social media, his presence at the convention and conference, saying that this is a man for whom Black journalists, and in particular Black female journalists, have been ridiculed, demeaned, disrespected. Like, we've got the track record of him during some of those White House press conferences and so forth. And they were like, why would you give this man this platform? And then, of course, have three Black women up there to interview him. And he just showed himself to be exactly who it is. So I agree with you that, you know, there's no question that, you know, but he was also doing some dog whistling as well. You know, well, you know, they're running 35 minutes behind. Their sound equipment isn't good. Just really kind of feeding into that whole notion. Of course, I'm at the Black Journalists Convention. They're late. The sound system is busted. That, you know, it just, I was like, ixnay. I personally would not have given him that platform out of just the fact that he has treated journalists the way that he has. That I just would have said no. But
it will. Let's see if it works out. And let's see. More shall be revealed on that, because I know it's not going to go away. Well, before we bring on our special guest, ladies and gentlemen, we want to speak someone's name who was actually born today, August the 2nd, 100 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. And we want to say happy birthday and celebrate James Baldwin, who again turned 100 years old today. Bobby, did you want to say something about James Baldwin?
I just want to say thank you, Alvin. I really wanted to just say that, you know, I have always been such an extraordinary fan and of James Baldwin, his wisdom, his work. And I've also deeply been moved to turn to his wisdom and his words here in 2024 still. It is amazing to me the timeliness of words that were spoken and written decades ago, his insights and his ability to use his voice to not only uplift people of color and Black people in particular, but also hold America accountable to the promise that it is supposedly made to all people, and in particular to people of color. So his wisdom, his quotes, if you've not seen the documentary, I Am Not Your Negro, I encourage you to see it. However you can see it, it is available streaming, etc. But I am deeply moved and deeply honored for us to be able to stop, particularly given our lives as two Black gay men and knowing whose shoulders we stand on. I'm just so honored to be able to speak the name of Brother James Baldwin on his 100th birthday. May he rest in peace and power.
Happy birthday, James Baldwin. We love you.
We
All
love
right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Bobby. Well, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, our show tonight is one that I feel is very important for all of us, and the conversations that we're going to have. I've been looking forward to this for some time. And so if you guys are ready, I want to go ahead and introduce our special guest tonight. Bobby, you ready?
Let's go.
All right. Reverend Dr. Christian Frazier is the CEO of Elevated Minds Coaching, is a multifaceted professional dedicated to enhancing corporate wellness. As a Desert Storm, Desert Shield Gulf War Navy veteran, Christian brings a unique perspective to his work, enriched by his extensive experience and expertise. Christian is a nationally certified mental health first aid instructor and a prominent advocate in the National Changing Minds Now initiative. His dedication to mental health is evident in his role as a trained peer recovery specialist, trauma education speaker, and trainer. With a doctor of ministry and over 20 years as an ordained minister, Christian's commitment to service is unwavering. His work is driven by a passion for empowering individuals to overcome obstacles, unlock their true potential, and pursue wellness and success. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our show, Reverend Dr. Christian Frazier.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me here. Look, I'm excited. Looking forward to this all day. I came with my Superman shirt because we're going to have a super conversation tonight.
Superman, Superman, Superman.
You know, a lot of people don't know this S does not stand for Superman. It stands for hope. It is actually the symbol of hope for Superman's home planet, Krypton.
So
he's starting already.
But it is a symbol of hope.
It stands for a symbol of hope. That's why I didn't really know that growing up, but it was some reason I was attracted to Superman, and I really know why, because he always stands for a symbol of hope.
Bobby, did you know that?
I did not.
I did not.
I feel red S. So
well, thank you. I'm going to wear my Superman shirt in a different way because of you, Christian. Thank you. Thank you. Well, look, I'm going to start off. Look, our viewers always, I read your credentials, but our viewers always like to know a little something else about, our special guest. So I don't know. This question I have, Christian, take about 90 seconds to tell us what it was like to be little Christian.
Oh, what it was like to be little Christian. So I grew up in the projects in Newark, New Jersey, and I was a nerd. I used to get beat up. It was not. It's not cool to be smart and to be weird. And I was considered to be a weird kid because I didn't even realize that. But when I went into the military, I tested so high on the ASVAB that they sent me to the second hardest school in the entire world next to MIT. The Navy Nuclear Power School is considered to be the second hardest school in the world. They take 6 years of college and cram it into a year and a half. So what you do in 16 weeks, we have to do in 1.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that was little Christian. Okay.
I think that S is standing for more than hope. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
So let's get right into it. And Christian, I want to ask you, what inspired you to write Unleashing Potential and Happiness Triggers?
Well, Unleashing Potential came about because there was a publisher who was looking for life coaches all around the world. This publisher is located in Canada, Pixel Publishing, and they were looking for life coaches to be able to have a different portion of this book, a different subject matter that they specialized in. And they found me on LinkedIn and reached out to me, and I love the idea. And I feel like there's, first of all, not a lot of African-American mindfulness instructors out there. And a recent psychiatry journal medication stated that mindfulness meditation is as effective as medication in the treatment of anxiety. In other words, you can really use mindfulness. It's more than just breathing. It's a lot more than that. And I can tell you from a person who suffered from anxiety, depression, PTSD, and I'm also a 15-year suicide survivor, that I know that mindfulness changed my life.
Wow, wow, wow. And happiness triggers?
Happiness triggers. So this was a long time coming. With happiness triggers, it spun from me going to an event. I'm going to say almost 20 years ago. I was working in sales, and my boss sent me to a Tony Robbins event.
Mm.
And at this event, I got a chance to walk on hot coals with my bare feet. And when you feel like you do that, you could do anything. And so I went to this, and he was telling us that no matter what's going on in our lives, you're in sales, you got this meeting tomorrow, you've got to close this 20 minutes. You have to learn how to be able to get back into this peak state. And he made us practice it all weekend long of being sad and then get back into this peak state. So then I started studying and working in mental health and psychology and human behaviors. And I wanted to talk about, instead of PTSD triggers, realizing that we also have happiness triggers. We have things that we can do, rituals or whatever it may be. It might be listening to your favorite song. It might be talking to your favorite person. It might be going to get a massage, a pedicure, whatever it may be. But you have something that you could do to be able to pull you up out of a state so that you do not stay in a depressive state or stay in an anxious state for too long. We really have more control over our emotions, our thoughts, our patterns, and behaviors than previously believed. So that's what kind of spun happiness triggers. And I've been so excited also about that because I'm about to revise it, and it is going to be endorsed by some doctors at universities. So I think this is something that even therapists, as I've talked to therapists around the country, they love the idea so much, they started saying, I'm going to start using this concept in my therapy sessions.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Oh, wow. Thanks you.
Oh my gosh. So Christian, can you tell us from the book, for our viewers who might like to read the book, and we hope that they will go out and support your efforts here. Is there a particular story from the book that kind of exemplifies happiness triggers and unlocking potential, and how a significant impact on your own personal journey? A particular story that might reflect that.
Yeah, so each chapter in the book has personal stories, which I love, and that has been the feedback that people have given, is that it's so personal. This is not your typical self-help book that kind of reads like a textbook. They're boring. A lot of people are like, I tried to read a self-help book, but it was boring. But people are saying, no, I'm connecting because I'm connecting to the stories of the people. And I give a couple of personal stories, but one that I can say is that, like, I remember going through kind of like financial disaster. And I went out to go buy a car. And I went to the car dealership, and the car dealer said, I'm sorry, we can't help you today. And I was like, what if I put another couple $1,000s down or something? He said, really, the only way you're going to be able to get a car today is if you win the lottery. I was like, oh, man, that hurts. It's like, you're going to give me no loan, right? So basically, I did not accept that I was not going to be able to get what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I was determined. I worked. It took me a little longer, but about 8 or 9 months later, I was doing really well in real estate. I actually became #1 realtor in the Orlando area, like the #4 realtor in the state of Florida. I sold $68 million of real estate in 1 year. So I went around he said, the only way you're going to be able to get a car is if you win the lottery. to, I actually bought an $80,000 Mercedes CLS 550. So it was just like I was determined not to let people decide or define what I was going to do. I didn't care about my situation, my credit, or anything. And that year, I also bought a $550,000 house sitting on the pond with a swimming pool. And we used to go on vacations at least every 3 to 4 months. So I went from a situation where my financial situation was really bad, and then I changed it around because of my mindset.
Wow.
And let me tell you something, I talk a lot about visualization in the book, but I use visualization. I made a vision board. Everything on my vision board came true. The house, the car, the money I wanted to make, the trips I wanted to go on, everything on that vision board came true. I had that car as my screensaver on my phone. Every time I picked up the phone, I looked at my vision and what I wanted to come true.
Mm-hmm.
Visualization is extremely important, and people think it's hokey or whatever it is. No, it's scientific.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain really doesn't know the difference whether the things that you're thinking and focusing on is real or you're just making this up. And if you can actually visualize something and focus on it and keep focusing on it, those things will manifest because you start doing things to make them happen. Subconsciously, you don't even realize it, but you're going to do those things to make those things come true.
Wow.
I so believe that.
I-
I'm a witness to what you just said. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you heard what he just said, okay? Because it is very true. And I'm here to tell you that it is.
Absolutely.
It's backed by science. Like I'm not going to, because I'm a geek, so I can get into the nerd parts of the brain, but I don't want to go there. But it's backed by science. It's science-backed. Visualization and creating vision boards will help you to achieve your goals.
Right.
Writing them down, putting it before you, seeing it all the time.
Well, you mentioned happiness triggers, and you defined it. You said it could be your song, favorite, your favorite food, all those things. How do we not have guilt over enjoying our guilty our trigger, our what they call happiness triggers? Yes. How do we not feel guilty for enjoying our happiness triggers?
Well, that's because the world has programmed us to feel guilty, but we have to unlearn a lot of what the world has taught us. We shouldn't feel guilty about self-care. I talk about self-care and mental health. I teach self-care and mental health first aid. The last portion of that class is self-care. And self-care is extremely important. It's just like this, just like on the airplane. They say if the oxygen mask falls down from the airplane, you got to put it on yourself first before you help somebody else. So you shouldn't feel happy about putting the oxygen. You shouldn't feel guilty about putting the oxygen mask on yourself before you help somebody else.
Amen.
See, and okay, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. No, you shouldn't. But in the times of COVID, things have changed. You know what I'm saying? And one would say, "Oh, Alvin, no, it hasn't." But I think people are more reluctant to be so forthcoming. To be honest with you, if I may be honest here, than they were pre-COVID, and now that COVID has existed, people who wouldn't do it anyway are using that as an excuse. So you know what I'm saying. But that analogy that you use, it made me think of that, Christian. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, and it really is a mindset, and it's about changing our mindsets and changing our thinking, because it's a total unlearning, and I'm going to say that's what unleashing potential is about, and it really is a total unlearning, because what we do, especially with mindfulness meditation. So, like, think about this with mindfulness, what it does is we're constantly worried about what's about to happen in the near future or distant future. And then we're always constantly worrying about what people did to us, what happened in our past, our trauma. So what mindfulness does is gets us to focus on the present right now. This is the most powerful moment that we have. That's why they call it a present. So the present is the most powerful moment that we have where we actually can create and do things. So if you're stuck worrying about the past and worrying about the future, then you really get stuck in a loop of doing the same thing. Oh, it's just like being in the airplane when you're in the holding pattern. You just keep going around in circles and circles and nothing changes. And then you realize 5 to 10 years later, I really didn't do any of the things that I really wanted to do. We keep searching for the answers on the outside. And mindfulness is really letting you know everything that you need is right there on the inside. It's getting to, and then when you talk, and then as a reverend, as a preacher, as a pastor, teacher, somebody who's been to seminary, this is where you hear from God. We have so much soul noise in our lives: the television, the news, the radio, the text message, social media, this, that, and everything, like friends, everybody bothering us, and we have all of these distractions. We really don't spend any time with ourselves. And we really need to at least wake up in the morning and then spend at least 15 minutes alone, not doing anything. Before you go, you check social media. Just take 15 minutes to be quiet. And, some people tell you they're not. It's impossible for your brain to stop thinking. But mindfulness, what it does, it allows those thoughts to come in. We use an example like a train station. Thoughts come into the train, but you don't have to get on it. You don't have to ride that thought. You observe it, allow it to go with no judgment, and just stay calm and stay present.
Wow. Christian, this leads me to my next question for you. I would love for you to spend some time, telling us key psychological insights that are in your book that you believe are essential for personal growth.
Well, each section of the book, there's somebody who talks about, so there's a financial expert, there's a relationship expert, there's a mindset rewiring expert. So there's something in there for everybody to really take care of the total man. And so even in the federal government, and I work a lot with SAMHSA, which is like the federal government that handles a lot of mental health administration across the entire country. They talk about 8 dimensions of wellness. There's social wellness, there's intellectual wellness, there's financial wellness, there's spiritual wellness, there's mental wellness, physical. So there's environmental wellness. So we talk about all 8 dimensions of wellness in this book. So it's guaranteed to hit. But then when you even talk about the mindfulness meditation, you're going to see this starting to be deployed. And also a lot of therapists and counselors are teaching their clients and patients mindfulness and breathing, because scientifically, let me tell you what happens. When you get a PTSD trigger, you get alarmed or whatever, what happens is that you go into fight or flight mode. Your thinking shifts from here in the prefrontal cortex, where it's like logical, back to here in the amygdala, where it's just kind of like, again, fight or flight. And we don't really make rational decisions where we're in fight or flight mode. So breathing, deep breathe, it's not just like, like you're just sitting there, but taking deep breaths and going back and forth just for 90 to 120 seconds can actually shift your thinking from the amygdala back to the prefrontal cortex, where you have more logical thinking, so you can make better decisions. A lot of us are walking around in what I call a constant underlying anxiety or constant fight or flight mode. So it doesn't really take much to tick us off and go from 0 to 100 real quick. So again, mindfulness kind of takes you back down, and it also allows you to think clearly, make better decisions. It helps you to be more present. Now, let me just talk about this also. Like if you're a mindful person and you're dating a non-mindful person, it's gonna make dating real hard.
Uh-oh.
Because as a mindful person, I'm present. I'm listening to you. I'm talking to you. I'm paying attention to every word that you say. But a Harvard research studies shows that most of us are only present 49% of the time. So if the other person is not mindful, you're talking to them, they're thinking about what's going on tomorrow, what happened today, everything like that. So they're getting every other word, and your communication is going to be poor. And then you, the mindful person, are going to notice that they're not really paying attention.
I hope you all heard what he said there too. Okay, because many of you in relationships, and I would I would probably suspect that you have experienced something like this before. So, Christian, that was okay. Thank you for that. You mentioned something about the workforce in your last comment. So, how can leaders and managers use the concepts in your book to foster a positive and hopefully a productive team environment?
Well, really, like, so first of all, we even have the book as a corporate license. So you can license it to your employees. Right now, so about 49% of CEOs think that their workplace is toxic. That was a recent study that I saw. 49, so almost half the CEOs believe that their workplace is toxic. Forbes reported a couple of years ago that mental health is costing workplaces over $300 billion a year. And they say that empathy and emotional intelligence are the two key, like things that leaders need. But it is lacking. So you have a book that can actually talk about emotional intelligence, but we also encourage you to do workshops. Like I teach mental health first aid, and what that does, it actually teaches you. It's like first aid, but for mental health. A lot of times, if somebody was choking in the restaurant, you might have 4 or 5 people who know first aid. They'll come to the rescue, but let somebody be experiencing a mental health crisis. People tend to stay away because they don't know what to do with it. So we teach people how to recognize the signs and symptoms of somebody going through a mental health crisis, and also how to help them. So we do that at work. We use scenarios of what happens when your coworker is going through a crisis. And I'll give you a prime example because I had a friend who had a coworker who was yelling and screaming at him and cussing them out and treating them bad. And I said, you know what? Why don't you take, this coworker in the office privately and just ask, like, I've noticed that you've been really kind of acting out of character lately. Like, I'm really concerned about you, like, because you've been giving me attitude that I didn't even really deserve. Like, is there something going on? And when he did that, she said, yes, my daughter is on drugs. She stole all the money out the bank account. And I had 20 cops in my house last night. So the reason the workplace was toxic because it was an issue that was going on at home, that a lot of times we feel like we shouldn't bring the work, but we are not capable of just leaving our problems at the door. So we have to be able to learn how to be able to help each other at home, on the street, and in the workplace. Now, in mental health first aid, we have trained 3 million people in the United States, and we want to train 1 in 15 people because we know and we have studied that the research shows that it's effective. And even like one thing that I'll say, because I'm here in Tampa, I'm in Florida. One thing I can say about the state of Florida that is a positive thing is that we require 80% of the employees that work for the public school system to get certified in youth mental health first aid. So all of the teachers, administrators, and I know I'm training like 100 teachers next week. So it's an important initiative, and it's happening, and we can do this in the workplace as well.
Well, I appreciate you giving me something positive to think about Florida, because I struggle many days as a Black gay man and
I
and an
struggle too.
I struggle. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Um, for our viewers, when we have guests, one of the things that we are often committed to is our viewers being able to walk away from a show with tangible, applicable strategies and approaches that they can apply to their lives to improve themselves. You talked about taking that time out in the beginning of the day. You talked about deep breathing and how it can actually shift you to a place of more logical thinking, putting you in that frontal cortex as opposed to the fight and flight of the back of the brain. So if there was one other thing that you could give them as a tangible takeaway to apply pretty readily to improve their lives, what would it be?
All right. So I'm going to give you this. Modern psychology, we have a lot of what we call negative thoughts. Sometimes our brain is just wired to, every time we want to do something different, it'll say something like, no, you can't. and a lot of times the negative thoughts that we have in our brains, they don't even come from us. They were planted there by somebody else when you were younger, in your childhood. They said you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. And then we have internalized it. So modern psychology says, give your thoughts a name. I take it a step further and say, give your thoughts a name of somebody that you don't like.
Oh.
So every time your thought says that you can't do that, you be like, shut up, Keisha. Not only am I enough, I'm more than enough. You got to have a conversation with your thoughts. And what happens is that if you start having more conversations with your thoughts, you start separating yourself from your thoughts. And what happens over time is that those negative thoughts get quieter and quieter. You don't hear them more. Now, you don't have to yell it out like I just did out in public or anything like that.
I was going to ask you
that. That's a whole different situation. But you can have a conversation internally with your thoughts and argue. And then what you want to do is you want to challenge your thoughts. You want to say, you want to like, what proof do you have that I can't do this? You want to be like a reporter. You want to ask like, what proof do you have that I can't do this? Like, what facts? Where are the facts at? So having a conversation with yourself, and then what you want to do is you want to counter your thoughts with positive affirmations. Write them down and say them aloud.
All right. And if your name is Keisha, it was just used as an example in the show. But what you say in all seriousness, one of the things you talk about in terms of happiness triggers, for me, I know that one of them is the village of people that I have chosen to surround myself with. Can you speak to the importance of a good village in terms of both unlocking your potential, but also finding happiness triggers?
Yeah, so I tell people a lot, like sometimes you gotta change your village too, because I tell people life is like an elevator, and when you're destined to rise all the way to the top, there's a lot of people that want to get them on the ground floor. You have to have enough intuition and wisdom to know when it's time for them to get off the elevator, because if you don't, the elevator gets slow, over capacity, starts moving slower, and then there's not enough room for the people who are supposed to ride with you all the way to the top. So, as we go through life, we find ourselves also changing circles. But our circles are extremely important. We don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And they say that you are really the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most. So we should always be evaluating who our circle is and who those 5 people are. Because if we need to change it, it's time. And some of us are holding on to some relationships that we should have let go 5 years ago. Some friendships and even family. Sometimes you got to, it's hard to set boundaries with family, but you must do it to protect your mental health. And I've had to do it even at an extremely close level with family, but it is extremely necessary. And I even have my own therapist said, man, sometimes my mother lives in the brownstone downstairs. And sometimes I come by every day and I say something to her, but sometimes I go home and I don't say nothing. I go straight upstairs because I can't deal with mama today. And that's okay. You should not feel guilty about that.
It's funny that you mentioned the term changing. You have to change your friends sometimes. You have to change them. And, you know, I am in therapy. I have been in therapy for 35 years. And, you know, I think it has definitely made me the person that I am. And when I think about that whole concept, rather than say change, for my own growth, I say that, you know, everyone can't, or there's a time that you can't sit in the orchestra section of my life. You know, you can't be right up front, because I have had some situations where, you know, I find where people are not happy for you. You know, when you start to grow and you start to obtain and you start to, you know, awaken. And so, which is not a bad thing, but you have to, like you said, program your mind to know that you're better than that, and you might have to make a change. So I appreciate you saying that, Christian. That is really deep for me, and that hit home. Christian, you mentioned, or I mentioned that you are a minister. So do you find overlap in your role as a spiritual leader and as a self-help author?
I do, and I love it. I love the fact that I work in public health. I am on the board of directors for NAMI Hillsborough. I am on the Zero Suicide Alliance in this area. I am the co-chair of the Veterans Subcommittee, the chair of the BIPOC Subcommittee. Anybody who's not familiar with BIPOC, that stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color. Anybody who is not Caucasian falls under BIPOC. So I am working with the sheriff's department and like 15 different hospitals and organizations that actually plan community events. Like in September, we're doing a National Day of Narcan distribution. So I love it that even when I teach mental health first aid, and in every setting that I go in, that I always am able to introduce myself as Reverend Dr. Christian Frazier. And I don't have to beat anybody up with religion or anything like that. I just go and represent. It's really the sermons that you live, not the ones that we preach, that are the most powerful.
Amen. Amen.
Come on with it. I'm telling you.
Amen. Amen.
That's the word. So tell us, you are busy. You are busy. You are coaching. You are mentoring. You are writing. You are a minister. You've got your family, social life, balance. How?
A lot of people ask me that question. They're like, how do you do it all? Give me an example. I taught a class today. I am going, as soon as I get off this call, I'm going into relax mode. And then I check out. Like, you don't see me on social media that much on Saturday or on the weekends. I really try not, unless I have something, major going on, but I really try to not be on the phone, not doing anything. I really like to do nothing.
To unplug.
And practice, my own self-care and practice what I preach, on the weekends. And then what I do is I just get in and work really hard Monday through Friday. And I just really separate my time when I'm going to work on this project, when I'm going to work on that project, when I'm going to work on some marketing, social media. And then I'm the person who calls everybody in the family. So they're not calling me, I'm calling them. I'm like, what's up? What's happening? I'm calling up my son, my daughters, my sisters. I have 10 brothers and sisters, 4 children, 7 grandchildren. Yes, I was a late bloomer. I didn't come out until I was in my 40s. So it's funny, I came out, and then for those that don't know,
oh my goodness.
when I went to New York, I did parties for like 10 doing events. I was doing the cruises for Pride for 10 years. So they was like, man, you came out late and then you became like the king of the gays.
I think now that I have you on the show,
You wear the
I
crown.
I remember some of your promotions in New York. Now, I'm having like a ticker tape moment. So, but I didn't know that was you when. Hey,
So,
Christian, I think I've
so,
been on
so
at some of your parties.
you might have. You might. I mean, those parties were pretty famous, and the thing about the parties is that it was a body positivity type of event. You
Right.
know, so it attracted all types, all ages. There were guys there from 21 to 75, and also it was the most diverse party in New York. I mean, put it like this: there were guys that would actually they came to a party once and they flew in on New Year's Eve, came to the party straight from the airport, partied all night long, went got something to eat, got back on the plane, flew out to Denver. That's how legendary those parties used to be.
I remember.
So it's and so then again, when I was in New York, I wasn't introducing myself as Reverend Doctor because then nobody want to hear that.
Right.
Probably not at those parties. No.
They just did. There's a lot of people in New York. They really just don't even know that side of me. They don't even they don't know anything about who I am. Really, they just know me as the party dude.
Well, I'm
So
sure
they're like,
people who
who
are
is that?
spiritual that are a part of it, but to think that your reverend may be planning a big party is what they probably be like.
What kind of party that's going to be? That's going to be whack.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to that. I mean, I get it. So like it was, but I feel like right now being my most authentic self, not because I was at one time I was like for a little bit I was the DL dude. I lived in Central Florida, which this is the Bible Belt, and it was cool, But then going back to New York, and I went back to New York, been working in Hollywood for 10 years, and that really helped me to feel comfortable. And then when I started doing parties and really started becoming familiar with the community, it really helped me to develop a love for the community. And I also, so then they gave me this nickname. They're like, you're like the gay elder. So,
There you have it.
but like there's so many, and that's why like I do life coaching now. Like I have a specific, service life coaching for gay men. Because we don't really have a lot of role models out there. We don't have a lot of people to look up to, and then we don't have somebody we could just talk to and understand what we're going through at times. So it's nice to be able to have that service available. And I try to do it where I make it as cheap as possible. I mean, like I don't think nobody does life coaching for like $99 a month.
Well, no, not in my circle. Well, Christian, look, we have gotten to the end of our interview or conversation with you. I don't like interview. We've gotten to the end of our conversation. So I want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight, sharing yourself and your story and your book, Unleashing Potential. Ladies and gentlemen, we have put up his website. Please go to christianfrazier.com and order the book. Please, you need to have it in your home, and hopefully one day I will meet him and he can sign my book somewhere. But thank you for showing up and wearing that Superman shirt so proudly, my brother. We really appreciate you for being on our show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, before we let Christian go, I want to tell you next Friday is our last show for season 3. And we will have council member at large, Robert White, will be here, ladies and gentlemen, of DC. I have met him. He is phenomenal. I cannot wait until he joins us on the show to end our season, ladies and gentlemen. And our words of the week this week: surround yourself with people that reflect who you want to be and how you want to feel. Energies are contagious. And I want to thank my co-host Bobby for sharing that the words of the week with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Again, thank you, Christian Frazier, Reverend Dr. Christian Frazier, aka Party Man. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week on a new episode of He Said. Christian. He said.
He said.
Have a good evening, everybody.
I was
Thank you.
He took his cape off.